There's a kind of man society rarely talks about anymore. Not because he failed, but because he never made noise. He didn't complain. He didn't demand attention. He didn't perform for approval. He simply showed up and carried what needed to be carried. These men are easy to miss because they don't announce themselves. They don't argue online. They don't turn struggle into identity. They move quietly through life, handling responsibility without applause. And when they begin to pull back, people don't notice right away. Things just start to feel heavier. They're not dramatic. They're not broken. They're not loud. They're consistent. And consistency doesn't trend in a culture built on noise. When attention becomes currency, quiet reliability becomes invisible. These men exist in every space. At work, in families, in communities. They fix problems before anyone sees them. They stabilize situations before they explode. They absorb pressure so others can function without realizing what's being held together for them. But something has shifted. The world no longer recognizes this kind of strength. And when quiet men stop giving what they once gave freely, the absence is felt long before it's understood. There is a kind of man most people pass every day without seeing. Not because he hides, but because he doesn't perform. He shows up on time. He does what needs to be done. He doesn't narrate his effort or ask to be seen. He learned early that speaking less creates fewer problems. That not every thought needs an audience. That not every disagreement needs to be won. So he became selective with his words, careful with his energy. This silence is often misunderstood. People assume quiet means empty. It doesn't. Quiet men think deeply. They observe patterns. They measure outcomes. They speak when it matters, not when it feels good. They learn through experience that speaking up often changed nothing. That explaining themselves invited friction. That consistency was rewarded with more responsibility, not appreciation. So they adapted. They didn't become bitter. They became efficient. Quiet men don't chase recognition. They don't center themselves in every conversation. They don't need to be validated to function. And because of that, they fade into the background of a culture that confuses visibility with value. But make no mistake, these men are often the ones holding things together. When excitement fades, when motivation drops, when systems strain, they remain. They keep showing up. They keep things stable. They are mistaken for replaceable because they don't advertise their importance. And that misunderstanding has consequences. There was a time when restraint was respected. Calm meant control. Silence meant confidence. Strength meant knowing when to speak. That changed slowly. Modern culture began rewarding volume. The loudest voice gained influence. The most expressive emotion gained sympathy. The most visible struggle gained attention. In that shift, quiet men lost their signal. They didn't change, the rules did. Silence began to look suspicious. Calm began to look detached. Thoughtfulness began to look like avoidance. Men who didn't perform emotion on command were labeled distant or disengaged. But quiet men were never disengaged. They were selective. They learned that not every conversation leads to understanding. Some only lead to noise. Some exist to extract reactions. So they stopped participating in those. They learned that explaining intentions often invited debate instead of respect. That defending boundaries made people push harder, so they stopped over-explaining. This wasn't weakness, it was strategy. Silence became a filter. When you speak less, your words carry weight. When you react less, people reveal more. When you explain less, your boundaries hold stronger. But a culture that feeds on reaction finds silence uncomfortable. It can't argue with it. It can't reshape it. It can't pull on it. So silence was rebranded as a flaw. Quiet men were told they needed to open up more, explain more, share more. What went unsaid was that many of those requests weren't about understanding. They were about access. Quiet men learned this quickly, so they protected their inner peace, not out of fear, but out of clarity. They didn't lose their voices. They stopped wasting them. When people say men disappeared, they often imagine abandonment. That isn't what happened. Most quiet men didn't leave. They withdrew. They still work. They still show up. They still handle responsibility. But they stop offering parts of themselves that were never protected. Withdrawal looks subtle. Less explaining, less emotional exposure, less volunteering of inner thoughts. It doesn't look dramatic, so it goes unnoticed. But it's significant. Quiet men learned that openness often came at a cost, that vulnerability was sometimes used against them, that the more they explained, the more was expected, so they adapted. They compartmentalized. Work stayed at work. Feelings stayed internal. Opinions stayed private. This wasn't coldness, it was containment. They noticed a pattern. The more reliable they were, the more weight they carried. The more they carried, the less anyone checked on them. So they began to set internal limits. They still did what was necessary. They just stopped doing what was optional. They stopped over-functioning. They stopped compensating. They stopped filling gaps no one acknowledged. From the outside, nothing seemed wrong. Inside, something had changed. Quiet men didn't stop caring. They stopped bleeding. Quiet men are often mistaken for being low maintenance. In truth, they carry more than most people realize. They carry responsibility without drama, pressure without performance, stability without praise. They absorb chaos so others don't have to. They keep routine steady. They fix issues quietly. They regulate themselves so environments stay functional. This takes discipline. They don't dump stress onto others. They don't look for emotional witnesses. They don't ask for reassurance every time something weighs on them. They adjust and move forward. This is why they're dependable. But reliability comes with a cost. When someone always holds things together, people stop noticing the effort. Stability becomes expected. Support becomes assumed. Over time, quiet men realize something important. Being useful is not the same as being valued. So they begin to adjust, not dramatically, but carefully. They stop picking up what isn't theirs. They stop managing emotions they didn't create. They stop carrying responsibility that isn't shared. They still contribute. They just stop overextending. From the outside, they look the same. Calm, steady, capable. But internally, a boundary has been formed. They are no longer giving from depletion. They are preserving themselves. Quiet men don't want applause. They want balance. They don't want praise. They want fairness. And when balance is missing, silence becomes protection. Modern life depends on stability, on systems that work, on people that don't panic when pressure rises. Quiet men are often the ones making that possible. They keep things running when enthusiasm fades. They handle details others ignore. They absorb friction so outcomes stay smooth. But stability is invisible when it works. No one celebrates what didn't break. No one applauds what didn't fail. So the men who prevent collapse are rarely acknowledged. Instead, attention goes to noise, expression, performance, and reaction. Quiet men operate in the opposite direction. They maintain, they sustain, they stabilize. And because of that, their work disappears into the background. Over time, this creates imbalance. Contribution without recognition drains motivation. Not suddenly, but slowly. Quiet men don't rebel. They recalibrate. They stop offering extra. They stop stepping in early. They stop absorbing more than they share. And because they do it calmly, the shift goes unnoticed until things start slipping. Deadlines feel heavier. Systems feel shakier. Tensions rise faster. Problems linger longer. People ask why things feel less stable. The answer is simple. The buffer is thinner. Quiet men don't leave. They stop overextending. They didn't withdraw from responsibility. They withdrew from being taken for granted. They still contribute where there is respect. They still show up where balance exists. But they no longer give endlessly to systems that don't see them. They don't need praise, but they need reciprocity. When that's missing, they protect their energy. Quiet men don't stop explaining because they became arrogant. They stop because explanation stops working. At first, they try to clarify. They offer context. They slow conversations down. They assume good intent. Over time, they notice a pattern. The more they explain, the more they are questioned. The more they justify, the more their words are picked apart. Explanation becomes leverage for others. So they adjust. They speak less. They answer briefly. They state decisions without long stories. They stop narrating their inner world. This isn't coldness. It's boundary setting. They realize that constant explanation creates entitlement. That access, once given freely, is rarely respected. Quiet men learn that privacy protects clarity. Fewer voices in their head lead to better decisions. Fewer justifications mean stronger boundaries. This is why they appear more decisive with time. Not because they changed, but because they stopped carrying unnecessary input. They don't argue to be understood. They don't over-communicate to feel safe. They let actions speak. And when asked to explain silence, they often don't, because silence already answered the question. They still care. They still feel deeply. They simply choose where to invest that care. When quiet men walk away, it isn't loud. There are no speeches, no confrontations, no announcements. They simply stop compensating. At first, nothing seems different. Then small things begin to slip. Delays appear. Tension rises. Processes feel heavier. The systems they once buffered start to strain. Quiet men don't cause collapse. They reveal imbalance. They stop carrying what was never theirs alone. They stop absorbing pressure that should have been shared. They don't walk away out of anger. They walk away out of clarity. They gave consistency. They gave restraint. They gave stability. When those contributions went unrecognized, they recalibrated. They still contribute, but only where respect exists. They still care, but selectively. They still show up, but not to be drained. This is the part many miss. Quiet men don't need attention to survive. They've lived without it. But when they choose distance, they take something vital with them. Stability without spectacle. That kind of strength is rare, and once someone learns to protect it, they don't give it away again. They build smaller, quieter worlds where effort is balanced, where boundaries are honored, where silence is understood. That isn't rebellion, it's resolution. Quiet men didn't disappear. They remembered themselves. The more and more I live is the more I see myself as that quiet man. Yes, I know I can talk when I want to, but I don't mean that type of quiet man, but the type of quiet man that measures before he gives. Because so many people will take you for granted. So many people have in the past swooped down into my world, and I've given freely. I had no problem with that. I never expected anything in return, but when I needed, nobody was there. When I would do things for many people, merely a kind word didn't exist of appreciation. So now I find myself in a place where my energy is full. And when we say quiet men, understand, ladies, that there are quiet women too. And this whole expression includes you. It's not about the sex, the male or female. It's about the essence of your spirit. And so everybody who comes to a certain level of understanding within themselves and in their lives will understand that they need a little bit of that quiet man or quiet woman in their lives. It preserves you. It lets you rest a lot better. It keeps you from being taken advantage of. And it protects you from becoming bitter. You form that balance in your world. My world now is a lot smaller. I don't have an entourage per se. It appeared that way many years ago. But I move in a real lean manner. And my thoughts are not challenged, not ridiculed, not influenced. My essence is not manipulated for someone else's benefit. I can see straight through intentions a mile away. And when you become still within yourself and don't play that game anymore, or if you ever played it, because many of us have never played it. So when it comes to public, social media, and everything outside of your inner circle, that's something that I know to do really well. But I choose not to on the level that I've done it before. It's not necessary. There's a lot of waste, a lot of wasted energy. You come to a point in your life when you realize that life will go on, and no matter what you say that you know to be the truth, people are going to go on with their opinion anyway. And even when they realize that they hit the wall and what you said was the truth, they still won't come to you and say, you know what, you were right. So don't waste time. Let people learn their own lessons. If they come to you for advice, if they come to you for guidance, that's beautiful. Share it. But never overextend yourself. Never do that, because you'll find that you not only won't be appreciated, but you just might be disrespected, because the mindset may be, who are you to tell me what I should do? See, they never understood that you didn't come to them to make yourself appear bigger than them, but it was out of genuine concern. But since they took it that way, how's the saying go? You go on with your bad self. So, you don't like to see accidents happen, but you also understand that lessons have to be learned. And sometimes we wish that we can prevent the hard lessons that those within close proximity to us are destined to learn. And hopefully they won't be too severe. But in this day and age, where so many people feel they know everything because they can get on a microphone and have a camera in front of them and speak out to the world and find like-minded people who will validate foolishness. Truth is truth, no matter how you slice it. And I, for one, will always bow down and obey and submit to truth. This keeps your theoretical, symbolic blade sharp to cut through this life. Like I always say, like a hot knife through butter. But it seems as that most people these days, they want friction. They want confrontation because of the hollow insides that they possess. They're in a constant state of trying to prove themselves. When you know who you are, when you know the qualities that you possess, you don't have to prove anything to anyone. It's a knowing, and it's a balance. And sometimes you'll find that people will resent you for that balance that you've attained, for that balance that you possess, that you too may have had to go through hard lessons to gain that balance. So it's something precious to you. But when they see that you can't be rattled, when you can't be shaken, that you have something inside of you that they don't possess at this time. And for some, it may be where they'll never possess those qualities. That's not for you to assess, but you will run across that. And if you ever wonder why you're challenged and tested, it's because they want to know if you're the real thing and you have nothing to prove. Let them go on and create their opinion, their thoughts. But you continue to do what you have to do, quietly. Even without fanfare, get used to it. Because now it seems as though the lives of so many people, especially those lives that we know, are becoming a performance where people walk around all day with their cell phones in their hand, their smartphones in their hand, and their life is a projection and a performance. How shallow, but they don't realize that. So I feel blessed that coming up on 25 years of being on social media, that so-called virus hasn't hit me. And again, I can be good at those projections. But at this point right now, I don't see the need for it. Let the next person take the stand. I don't need it. But I can always execute if necessary. And that's all I need to know. As long as my family, my inner circle here on this small platform know, I'm happy with that. So that being said, I'm just so glad that you're here to vibe with me. Thank you for being here with me. I hope my words shared have given you something to think about. But you don't have to perform. You don't have to convince. You don't have to explain. You just have to fulfill your purpose. Nothing more, nothing less. And when you remove yourself or are removed from where you are to go somewhere else, trust me, you will be appreciated and you will be missed. Don't worry about it. You're very valuable, whether people tell you that or not. Much love to you all. Thank you for being here. I'm on to the next one. Leave a comment. Let me know what you think. LANCESCURV out. Peace.